Celeb Savant is a career retrospective type interview focusing on singers, actors, and industry experts. Join Barrett Edelstein now as he dives into the entertainment world.
Electric dance wizard Somyo, formerly known as Barrett Crake, is an American-born, Lisbon-based singer, producer, and DJ who strives to live in the moment. He uses music and light to capture his subconscious thoughts. To date, he has amassed over 11 million streams worldwide with his uplifting dance music. A true global artist, Somyo collaborates with producers from all over the world. The 2017 remix of the classic Corona hit Rhythm of the Night radio edit, Maeve's Tell the Truth, and JB Stark's Silent Treatment came to fruition through relationships with like-minded creatives he met online. In 2021, he performed at Life is Beautiful in Las Vegas alongside artists such as Billie Eilish, Tame Impala, and A$AP Rocky. Through his intimate approach to songwriting, Somyo has attracted an enthusiastic fan base that finds his music both relatable and inspiring. In order to convey the complete story behind each track, Somyo leans on his background in film to create beautiful videos, often using just an iPhone to transform each song into an expansive multimedia art project. Up next on Celeb Savant, we've got Somyo. Where in the world are you and how are you doing?
I'm calling to you today from Lisbon, Portugal. It is a little bit of a gray, drizzly day, but it's normally very bright and sunny here. I love Lisbon.
How long have you been living there for? And where are you originally from?
I grew up in Texas near Fort Worth and then moved to Los Angeles, where I lived for 13 years. And then I moved to Portugal about 5 years ago. So I've been here in Europe for going on 6 years now.
Why Portugal? What was the inspiration to relocate?
Well, I have a lot of family in the UK, and I've always really vibed with the music scene of all of Europe. And it was a lot easier to move to Portugal than it is to the UK because of the visas and everything. Also, we visited Portugal in 2017, fell in love with the people, the food, the culture. It's just so relaxing here. It's such a nice contrast to Los Angeles. The electronic music scene here is really fun and a lot of inspiration. And just the lifestyle in Europe is just so great. Just being able to walk everywhere and it's more relaxed. It's become really, really nice.
What age, whether as a child or teenager, did you think, okay, I want to be in this music creative space, and how did that journey progress?
That is a really good question. If I really go back and think, I became obsessed with music before I really knew anything. One of my earliest memories was playing my parents' records, and my favorite one that I would play over and over was Let It Be by the Beatles. And I remember playing it over and over, and I would just dream of being able to get up in front of my class at the time. I was like pre-kindergarten maybe, and I wanted to just play and dance with that song together. That was my earliest music dream. And then I went through, I guess, adolescence, obsessed with music, but never really ever considering it as an option for me until I moved to Los Angeles. And I was actually studying acting for a while and doing a lot of independent films and TV. And I kept getting interviewed and auditioning for like musical projects. And so as I kind of got involved with those, I was like, I actually prefer making this music. I prefer being part of the music process. And one of the independent films I did was called Eternity the Movie, where I played a fictional Daryl Hall, like from Hall & Oates, or George Michael kind of character. And I got to be a process of making all that music for that. And I just fell in love with that process. And I thought, oh, I could be making my own projects and spending time on what I want to make and not always auditioning for other people's projects. So that's kind of where I decided to switch to this independent artist career.
For that movie, did you learn the creative process or did that come afterwards?
That came afterwards. So that was kind of my first main introduction to the professional side of it, because the people that were making the music for that were were very pro. And so I got to be a part of the songwriting a little bit, and then definitely the recording and the production. Being behind the scenes of that was it just kind of blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a whole world here. I had never been exposed to it before. I appreciated music and I loved it, all kinds. But when it came to like dance music and pop music, being inside and seeing that really, really opened my mind to that. Oh, I could learn how to do this. I could do this too.
Going into it professionally as an independent artist, because obviously there's a concept and then the idea of it, but now actually actively doing it, were there any aspects of the process that surprised you that you didn't realize would be part of the process and actually is part of it?
Yes, good question too. I think it was very humbling because I'd spent so much time focusing on acting and even singing. I was taking voice lessons for a while, but then it was humbling to think, okay, I need to really start from scratch. So I actually went back to school. I went back to school for 2 years for music and songwriting so that I could really, really understand how music worked. And that was, I think, the part where that really surprised me is like, I didn't know what I didn't know. And having to start sort of from scratch again in a new field was probably the biggest lesson so far.
You've recently changed your stage name to Somyo. Why did you change it? What does it mean? And what is the inspiration behind it?
So I was releasing music under my name, Barrett Crake, for a long time because that was my name. That was actually already my stage name for acting because my full name is Barrett Crake Idson. So I was using Barrett Crake as my stage name for acting. So I turned that to my name for music. I was releasing music under Barrett Crake for 4 or 5 years. And when I moved to Portugal, I sort of accidentally took a break from music. It was really a lot of energy to move countries and learning a new language. That was actually also a life goal of mine, was to learn a new language. And so it is now Portuguese. And after I started coming back to songwriting, after taking a year or so off, the music was a little bit different. It was not quite as poppy. It was a little bit more dance electronic. And I thought, I think it'd be really cool to start with a new project name. And another reason is I had always felt like when I was releasing music under Barrett Crake, something about it felt very personal. It was like, if people don't like it, they don't like me. And it made it super, super difficult for my ego. Mm-hmm. And so I put together this name that was it's actually the combination of two Portuguese words. It's for sound, which is som, and dream, which is sonho. So I combined them, and it's sound and dream in Portuguese, Somyo.
Oh, wow. It also sort of gives you sort of a persona so that it doesn't really, and we're not going to say that people don't like it, but if there are any challenges or any things, it takes away the pressure of your name and your identity. It is a little bit of ego. I get it. In my brain, I take things personally. I'm much better than what I used to. Like if a person stops following me on Instagram, why did they stop following me? Who is it? And what have I done wrong? You know, that whole parrot talk, like I call it. I've learned to tell the parrot to shut up. Yeah, I get what you're saying. But now let's dive into, how do you create a song?
Yes, I create music from all different things. Just the other night, I woke up with a song in my head. I always keep my phone by me because sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I hear a melody. It was in my head and I have to record it. That happens to me. Also, I'm walking down the streets. Like when I came up with the name of Somyo, that was just me walking down the street. I was just thinking about it. And just like that, sometimes melodies come to me or ideas come to me. I keep a note in my phone under my notes with lyric ideas and song ideas. And sometimes I start from there. And when I sit down to actually make a song, it usually starts with some instrumentals. I like to start with, a vibe with some chords and a feeling, and then melodies come to me, and then I kind of sing gibberish to these melodies, and then an idea out of the emotion of the melody comes out that leads me to what the song is about and what it's trying to be. Because I believe that music is really just I'm like a conduit to these energies that are just coming through me, and I have to just get out of my own way and inspiration comes and I have to like let it go through me and find what it's trying to say. So I just have to get out of my own way most of the time.
Is that an easy process to get out of your own way, or are you still learning to do so?
I am definitely still learning to do so. It is very difficult because I can't just make myself like, oh, okay, at 9 a.m. I'm going to start making this song. Like, I have to be really moved and inspired. And that can be really frustrating. But whenever it does happen, it feels so good. But the learning is to be able to do it also on demand. And that's where I think I am getting better. And I definitely see that improvement, which is great.
How have you structured yourself to learn to do it in demand?
Well, I think it's coming to the studio every day, and which is where I am now. And in fact, after this, I have some things to record and some songs to work on. And I find also that doing it during the weekends, there's something mental about it that during the week when I have administrative things to take care of or emails to respond to that aren't related to music or other life things that are not related to music happen during the week. And on the weekends, it's easier to really get creative unless I'm doing it with somebody else. When I'm doing it with somebody else, that takes the pressure off doing it alone. And then I can kind of vibe out with somebody else and create music together. So it's creating these sessions and creating space for myself, I think.
What percentage is it of you creating by yourself compared to collaborating with others?
I always collaborate with others when releasing and creating my music, but that's not to say I always start that way with the song. I usually have an idea when I go to work with somebody else. I find it very difficult to simply write and create a song on my own. I do hope to get there. That is my goal. But right now, I just simply love the process of creating music together. It's part of what I love about it is that creative process with another person.
Now, you referenced earlier that your songs, when you were creating under Barrett Crake, were a little bit more poppy, and now they changed. What was the inspiration behind that change? Was it just the transition of moving your new life, or were there other aspects that allowed the transition to happen as well?
I think it was a little bit of maturity and growing up and my music tastes changing. I always loved pop music. I still love pop music. And that's what I was most inspired by when I was writing that music for that project. And now, well, I was always in love with electronic music since I was a teenager. To me, it's always been about finding the path of least resistance or the path that brings me the most joy. And also just carving out what is uniquely me and what can I bring something new to it. I started to see this vision of what Somyo could be, which is this like DJ, this producer who also sings, and there aren't a lot of people that do that. And so the idea of being an electronic DJ or producer who also sings, that just feels really exciting to me. It's not something that people are doing. Instead of trying to be a front-facing like pop singer who's just up there with a microphone, like I don't know. I think it came out of that inspiration and the inspiration from other artists that I follow and just dance music in general. Something about it it was just calling to me, I guess.
I know it's all very secretive in your guys' world. So what can you tell us is coming out or coming up over the next period of time?
Actually, my next song, it's called Forget to Love. And I actually wrote it about a year and a half ago with my friend Andre, who we met at my cousin's wedding. She sat us next to each other thinking, here are the two music people in the group. And it actually worked out. We clicked and we wrote this song and we think it's really good. And after that, I actually have several other collaborations down the pipeline. My goal is to release a song every other month this year. And I have several lined up. It's going really well. And I have gigs lined up here in Portugal as well. And I'm continuing to expand my reach with the live space. So yeah, I'm feeling very inspired and excited right now.
You referenced the singles that will be released every other month. Are they going to accumulate into a body of work of an album?
Yes. In fact, I think this summer we are going to package them along with some extra songs as either an EP or an album. Yeah.
I love me a CD. I still budget for my CDs every month. For me, it's an energy exchange to say thank you to you guys for all the hard work that you do. I love the journey of the choice, the unpacking, the booklet, listening to song from 1 to whatever number. I am unsure if you are or not aware, a massive uptick of physical around the world, Europe, UK, Australia, America. About 3 years ago in the UK, 5.9 million vinyl sold, the biggest since 1990. Last year, also in the UK, there's a basket of products that they gauge exchanges on. There needs to be a high number of exchanges daily for a product to be in the basket. And because of the upsurge of CDs again, CDs are now back in the basket, and they monitored this basket for tax purposes. The research is showing that it's the teenagers, the younger kids that are diving into this physical world. Then we also have the DSPs, the Spotify and so forth, that people consume music on. What are your observations of the landscape at the moment?
I've heard about this physical trend reappearing. I hadn't heard about CDs exactly. I had heard that, well, I've noticed that artists are selling cassettes again. I knew about the vinyl, which I think is really cool because the quality of vinyl sounds amazing if it has the right setup. CDs, I still own hundreds of CDs. They're all in Texas at my family's house. And my childhood bedroom is a little bit like a museum of all of my music from that age. And it's all still there. And I have my stereo. So whenever I go home, I can like pop in an old Britney Spears CD or Kylie Minogue or whatever and just jam out as if it's back then. I just can't get rid of them. I don't know why. I know that I can listen to all of this music on Spotify and Apple Music or whatever. And I can't get rid of them. However, I have to say, I'm not buying CDs anymore personally. I'm trying to be more minimal in my day-to-day life and not accumulate things that I have to store somewhere because I've moved so many times. Yeah. I'm a little bit traumatized with how much energy and it is to move stuff. So I'm trying to be more minimalist.
I love that you said Kylie because Kylie is my absolute favorite. So I was like, okay, yes, I know I've got all of
she is my number one and she's my absolute favorite. I've seen her every tour since like 2005 or something. Yeah. I'm obsessed. Yeah.
Also, I've got all the CDs, all the remixes, all the lives, all the DVDs. I've got all of them. So I was like, okay.
Yes, I've seen all. Yes. Oh, amazing work. Yes. I love Kylie so much. She's been a huge inspiration for me, actually. She's probably the top artist that, when I started hearing her music when I was younger, really lit up my brain about, what dance music can be. Because it's pop, of course, but it's very heavily dance inspired as well. Yeah, I've loved seeing her career evolve and change and blossom. It's been really cool.
This is another topic I'd love your observation on. And I normally discuss it with female artists, but I'd like your perspective. A couple of years ago, I read an article about the top 2 radio stations in the UK. I think BBC One and Capital F. And in this article, it referenced female artists only, not male. And in the article, it said that they would not play any female artists over the age of 30 because they consider them no longer relevant and no longer targeted to their listening audience. This has been going on for years because I remember I was reading the Bananarama autobiography, and back in the 80s, when they turned 23, 24, the record label dropped them saying, you're too old. You're no longer relevant. I do believe that social media is breaking these walls and breaking these barriers because when specifically Kylie released Padam Padam a couple of years ago, the radios in the UK refused to play it because obviously she's 54, 55, way too old. But then it blew up on socials and they were forced to play it. This whole discussion that I'm mentioning, what are your thoughts around it?
Well, I actually just read an article about this not too long ago saying that there is a trend that is changing about this where, Taylor Swift can be named and also Beyonce can be named and Lady Gaga. These are all hit makers that are over 30 years old. and of course Kylie as well. I think something is definitely changing, and I had actually never considered that it could be social media that could be part of it. I think it's fantastic that that's happening because it also shows that these artists are not losing their hope. They're just so determined. And when I see artists like this continuing to evolve and continuing to release music and just strive to be better, it's inspiring for me and also really scary because I know how hard it is that they're working. And it's extremely difficult. Like we're going back to the ego thing. It's really difficult on the ego to be judged for your age or to be judged for what you've done in the past, but yet to keep on going and going and never giving up. And so I really praise that, and I hope that that trend continues. It's definitely easier for men too, though. That's why it's really awesome to see women being able to really pull that off. It's awesome.
I mean, if you think back to when Tina Turner came back after she'd left Ike Turner, I mean, this was 1982, 83, 84. At that stage, she was 45. So the fact that they were open to her reinventing herself at that time was amazing because there wasn't social media at that time. It was just MTV and those sort of things. And then she won the Grammys and became the Tina Turner reinvented, so to speak. So yeah.
Yes, that's the Tina Turner that I really remember is that Tina Turner. So that's a really another good example that she was so determined to do this again, and she had that energy, and she just to go after it is awesome.
What do you enjoy about performing live?
My favorite thing about performing live is to share that energy with an audience. Putting together a show is so much effort, but it comes from like such a desire to connect and share the love of my music that I create and the vibe and energy with other people. And that's easily my favorite thing is seeing other people dancing, connecting with them, and just that energy exchange is my favorite for sure.
Okay, so I'm that guy that's right up in front. I'm dancing, I'm jamming. I'll take my cell phone out for maybe one or two songs, one or two videos, and then I put it away. I notice these days, and in fact, I can't remember which, if it was Diplo or one of the big DJs or electronic dance people, he at a concert or at a show, he took a picture of all the audience and they just were standing. They weren't even dancing. They just had their cell phones out filming. So from the person on the stage, potentially seeing a bunch of cell phones compared to a bunch of eyes, do you not feel that it takes away a bit from that energy exchange that you referenced, or it's just where society is at this moment?
It does. You're right. It really does. Even though, you see a camera, you think, oh, they're filming it. They like you, or they're filming it. You're being recorded for social media. That's cool. And if you see eyes, it's the same thing. They're connecting with you. But seeing a camera does make for a little bit of a, oh, you're going to see this forever. Or, I don't know. It does take away from that immediate connection with the person. However, I am very guilty of it when I go to see my favorite artists. I like to film a lot, but I actually do go back and watch it or post it or things like that. But I've also learned when to put it away better now. I will say really just quick on that. When Kylie came to Lisbon last year, I happened to be sitting really close to when she was doing this number in the center. And I couldn't help but film the whole thing because she was like this close to me. So I couldn't help it. And I have watched that a lot. And I'm glad I did. But I did put it away for part of it too.
I love this game. I know if I had to ask this question in 2 minutes, in 20 years, in 5 minutes, I know your answer will be different every time. I recognize that and understand that. I'm not saying favorites. I'm saying top of mind. If once you finish this conversation, you want to go away and you listen to 5 other artists, who would those artists be?
The top of mind would be Kylie, as I've said. The Beatles. Those are the top 2. Elton John would probably be number 3. This is really tough. Madonna, probably number 4.
Madonna.
Uh-huh. And then another one that's coming up that's surprising even me a little bit is Ed Sheeran. I get a lot out of his music. I think he's a genius, and I've seen him live and he's so impressive. So I would probably say those 5.
The podcast is listened to throughout the world. As a final message, what would you like to say?
I would like to say that following your dreams is not always easy, but it is really worth it. And consistency, working hard, and believing in yourself are skills and a practice every day. And whether it's music or whether it's finance or whether it's advertising or anything in between, believing and continuing to do it is a practice, and it's not something to give up. And I'm saying this because I feel like I say it to myself every day, and it's something that I'm sure everybody feels the same way. And the more we get through it and continue to learn from it, the better it feels, and the better connected I think we are to ourselves, or the way I am to myself, at least.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Celeb Savant. Please follow Barrett on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Celeb Savant. That's CelebSavant.